think I've forgotten how to do this. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Colour Cave, where we like to play with art stuff. My name is Jem. I've got an O. What I have here for you is the January Upcrate, which is Upcrate number 53. Now this is an art subscription box that originates in Germany, and it's quite a similar concept normally across these types of thing. They give you a set of surprise art supplies with a little bit of inspiration and usually some information on techniques and things, and they give you a prompt and you can use all the supplies in the box to create something that fits the prompt. Upcrate are pretty well versed now in terms of their boxes. I'm interested to see what Upcrate has in store for us this month, because in the past I have found they're very hit or miss. They're either absolutely fabulous or they're just not very good at all. So keen to see what's going on. Bit concerned about my bashed bit here, but hopefully it hasn't affected anything. Okay, I like to take a look at the surface and whatnot first. So we have our Sailor of the Month here. Ooh, this looks very similar to someone's style that I know, but I don't think it's them because I think they would have told me. Riki Beztiki, Artist of the Month. Okay, so they're not even calling them co-captains anymore. Freelance artists. Okay, very nice. Very nice style. Here is our QR code to get us into our magazine, because we've got to do it digitally now, so we'll look at that in a little while. This is stunning. Look at this. This is so nice. Quite interesting elements that they've put together there. You know, the fact that there's a building with an owl and flowers as well. Not necessarily things that would go traditionally together, so interesting point. Okay. SMLT art. We have had paper from these guys before, and the last paper we got I absolutely loved. So I am looking forward to this. This is cold pressed watercolor paper, 100% cotton, so this is really good quality paper. Traditional white. We've got 10 sheets, 300 GSM. Obviously this is A5 because that's what fits in the boxes. So I am excited about this. I am currently on the hunt for good hot press watercolor paper. I've only ever used the Arche watercolor paper, or Arche depending how you want to pronounce it, and I'm looking for a sort of cheaper alternative for more sort of day-to-day painting. So if anyone has a favourite hot pressed watercolor paper, I would love to hear about it. You can pop a comment underneath the video. Oh, look at that. That is freaking adorable. Okay, we're doing well. We're doing good so far. I think everything's more or less fallen out the tissue by itself. I think there's something stuck in here. Oh. Okay, we have got a paintbrush. It's a Colibri White Star. So this is made in Germany. It's a size 3. That's one of the smallest size 3s I've seen. I like the length on the fibres here. That's quite a long brush. Synthetic bristles that look remarkably similar to that of the Sea White of Brighton brushes that I tend to favour. If they're not the same fibres, I think they'll be very similar. That is absolutely rock hard with transit glue, or, you know, Arabic gum, Arabic, or whatever you want to decide that's on it. So I'll give that a wee wash off and we can have a go with that later. That is a really tiny paintbrush to give us. I think I will be employing a larger paintbrush if we're going to do anything. And we have a bundle of Winsor & Newton Cotman paints. These are the paints that I use on a day-to-day basis. They're great. I'm not a huge watercolourist. I always stick by the hashtag I am not a painter. And these do great for what I need them for. They're substantially light fast, considering that these are the student grade paints from Winsor & Newton. So we've got a really nice select. They've given us a lot of colours here actually, which I can't pick stuff up today. What is wrong with me? Phthalo Blue. I think we might have a warm and a cool palette here. Oh no, we've got Indigo. Indigo? I must have Indigo. Sap Green, always a favourite. Purple Lake. And Ultramarine. Okay, so we've got a fairly decent set of colours here. I quite like this. This is exciting, but we've also got a tube of white gouache. This is the exact gouache that I am using just now, and I was just thinking to myself the other day that I quite liked it, and I quite fancied my chances at how quickly I was going to get through a 20ml tube of gouache, because I'm used to the slightly smaller tubes, the 15ml tubes. So I'm really pleased that this is here. So this is the new one. So I will be keeping this for myself. As I have a full set of Cotman, I'm going to have to check out the indigo thing, but that's bugging me now. I do have indigo. Okay, so this will actually let you see the colours. So here's Purple Lake. This is this one here. Just so you can get an initial impression of them. Sap Green is here. Indigo is down here. Ultramarine's up the very top in this corner here. This is ultramarine here. Phthalo blue. Cobalt blue hue here. Permanent rose is up the top. It's this one here. And what other colour did we have? Cadmium red pale. So that's like a vermilion. That's this one here. So there you go, that is our colour selection, which is quite nice. I quite like that. I'm quite interested in that. So what I'd like to do now is scan the QR code and take a look at the magazine. Obviously for the purposes of this video, I will swatch from my studio palette and I will put those little half pans into the stash shop. While we're on the subject of the stash shop, I do have a lot of used art supplies that I'll be putting up over the next maybe 3 or 4 days, and this is just a build up because I haven't had used supplies in the shop for so long. I've kind of got a pile of stuff now, so that'll be going up over the next couple of days. So come back, what day is this? I think this video is going out on Tuesday or Wednesday, so by the end of the week, if you come back on Friday, there should be some used supplies. So I will include those Cotman watercolour pans in with that lot of stuff on Friday. So if you fancy a wee bargain, the used stuff I sell really cheap. So come and have a wee visit at the website. That's the website there. The link to the website is down in the description. That'll take you to where you need to go. Anywho's, scan the frickin' QR code. Incidentally, the case that I have on my phone today has the All My Friends Are Dead sticker on it. That was an Upcrate sticker we got way back when. Righty McCoho. Oh, I like this. Is seeing the supplies, is that going to glare? No, that's not bad. Seeing the supplies laid out like this, it actually made me realise that this is such a simple box, but in a really good way. Let's just start at the top. The Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolours in half pans. High quality, fine art pigments add even more vibrancy to any artwork. Each colour has a range of different properties, from permanence and light fastness to opacity, colouring and grain. AA and A ratings for excellent and good light fastness. Yeah, I actually did a video comparing, this was ages ago, the professional range with the Cotman colours, and there's a surprising number of crossovers in the light fastness department between the Cotman paints and the professional paints. I will link that video at the end card so that you can go and watch it, because if you are interested, it was very enlightening, so you can check that out. Cotman watercolour gives artists the confidence they expect from a high quality watercolour. Over 40 different shades is ideal for beginners, advanced painters and artists, or folk that are just really middling like me. The individual colours can be mixed together perfectly. Well, I bloody hope so. New shimmering metallic colours have been added to the range, which can be mixed with other colours or applied as a shimmering effect over other colours. The pans are compact, dry, ideal for working outdoors or when travelling. Recommended retail price is €360 per pan. Okay, and they've got little swatches there. Obviously, they look different on your screen depending where you are. The gouache, which is this is the Talons gouache. I have been using this a lot recently. I really like it. The only reason I cracked open this tube, that was about 3 or 4 days ago, is because my my Winsor & Newton Designer's gouache, which is the one I usually use, I've squeezed every last drop out of it. There was just nothing left. So I needed something until I can get to the shops and get some more Winsor & Newton. So open this bad boy, and I really like it. I like the consistency of it. Extra fine gouache is a highly pigmented paint with a matte finish. Although gouache is popular among artists and designers for its intense and opaque colours, they can be made slightly more transparent by adding water. Yes, they can. Gouache is made with a high concentration of high quality pigments and based on dextrin, which gives the paint a smooth consistency and reduces the surface gloss. Now, this is the thing about gouache and why I like it. If you get a good quality gouache paint, you can have a really dead flat matte finish, and it's an ideal base for putting things down on top of, like metallic watercolour. or coloured pencils, another one. I love gouache. Like, when it comes to painting, if I had to choose between all the different types of paints, gouache would get me. So yeah, I'm a big fan. Use gouache to create even matte colour blocks without visible brush strokes. That's exactly what I've just said. Mix the colours with water to thin. Mix and create smooth colour transitions. Gouache is not waterproof when dry, which means you can still rework the colours with water after they are dried. That's a downside to gouache. It's really easy to activate the layer underneath what you're doing. They are generally very reactive with water. They are hydrophilic. I think there's like waterphilic there. Hydrophilic. So sometimes you do have to be careful with what you're doing. Work quickly with a light touch, but also make sure each layer is like absolutely bone dry before you do anything else. I am imagining that the whole point of this is that we mix the watercolour with the gouache in this particular instance, and that will give us a semi-opaque range of colours that are slightly paler than the watercolour variety, so we can have a semi-opaque and transparent mediums to work with. Plus, as well, if you use this on more classically used for things like highlights, like ripples on water. Whiskers is another one I use it for, on animals. The Colibri size 3 brush, entirely by hand in Germany. The white synthetic fibres taper towards the tip, giving it a very fine tip. It does have a very fine tip. Again, really nice. If the bristles are stiff enough, that's really nice when you're using gouache. If they're not stiff enough, it's a total nightmare. So we'll see. It retains its shape very well and therefore is ideal for all types of paint. Oh, we'll be the judge of that, won't we, guys? The SMLT watercolour paper. This pad is glued with a hardback cover. Traditional white 100% cotton watercolour paper. Its cold pressed surface texture has excellent colour lifting abilities. I have no idea why that was so difficult. The paper is valued by professional and amateur creators and offers good quality at an affordable price. It's a long life, acid free and pH neutral paper. Okay, this is the thing for me. I absolutely loved, I think it was Bristol paper we had last time, and I loved it. And I really get the feeling that their paper is genuinely, because everyone says, oh, paper's good quality. I genuinely feel that way about this, so I really hope that this watercolour paper is the same. I'm concerned with it being cold pressed paper. There's a lot of cold pressed papers that I don't like the texture of. It's too textury, or there's like that weird like sort of faux linen pattern. Oh, I hate that. So I'll wait till I open up and see what we like about that. You can follow SMLT on Instagram. I think we should do that. Will we just head over there and see what's what? Ooh, okay, there we go. Back to what we were doing. That was easy. Right, okay, so Artist of the Month, also Instagram. I am very particular about who and what I have on Instagram. I like to have a feed flooded with art that inspires me or I'm very drawn to. So here's the interview with the artist. Some of these are super cute though, like they really are. I enjoy this. She seems to gravitate heavily towards pinks and purples, which is interesting. And here is the video of her doing her artwork that's appeared inside the box. Art out of the box with Katrin. So here we go. Box 53 features a special duo, gouache and watercolour. They blend exceptionally well, and that is because they're both hydrophilic, as I was just talking about. Because they're water soluble and easy to apply. So you can see here she's made some swatches with the gouache mixed with the watercolour, and this is just the watercolour. It's really easy to tell the difference. You can see she's painted the frog in here with just the watercolour compared to what's going on up here. That's got the gouache in it, like worlds apart. So she has basically started this painting, and you can see in the detail stages that she's used the paint that's got the gouache mixed in with it. Excellent, that's lovely. I really, really like that. These are the entries from Upcrate 52. These are the one. This was the box with the Pantone markers in. I just skipped this completely. I was obviously mentally and emotionally incapacitated. The pens and everything that were in this box, that's some of the items I'm putting up in the stash shop, but some of these are absolutely adorable. Crickle Kritzel, who I already follow on Instagram, I was really hoping he was going to channel some Disney energy for us, and it did not disappoint. This is really nice as well, this one. I really like it. So the topic for this box is interaction. The interplay of several elements creates an overall mood, whether sunset, starfish, and face or cake, party hat and laughter. Show us your thoughts in the form of a composition of several elements in one picture. Right, okay. The topic itself is very wishy-washy and generic, and Upcrate are absolutely renowned for that. If you read the description underneath, they're actually asking you for something very specific for the prompt, which I love. So, we've to bring elements together in one picture. These can interact with each other or simply stand next to each other. The viewer can thus create an overall mood. We're excited to see what you come up with and look forward to your mood pictures, a kind of elaborate mood board. So, for those of you that are a bit newer here, step 1, use the materials in the month's Upcrate. Let your creativity run free and create a great work of art. And post your art on Instagram with the hashtags UpcrateBattle, Upcrate53 and tag Upcrate. So the deadline is the 26th of February, so from the date that this is going live, you'll probably have about a month. And there is a prize for people that do well, and that is the Upcrate magazine. Obviously going to use the open tube of gouache and my own paints for this. Because I am familiar with these paints, I am extremely familiar with the Cotman watercolours, but having used this a lot just in the last few days, I'm fairly comfortable with that as well. My query here is, how is this going to get on this paper? And please, please, please let this paper be amazing, because that would make me really happy. I will not be putting the white gouache in the stash shop because I seem to use a lot of it, but as I say, the half pans can go in, the Cotman half pans. Please be nice texture, make me happy. I'm okay with the paper texture. I can't say I'm hugely excited about it, but it'll be fine, it'll be okay. I'm just busying myself and getting all excited because we're using gouache. Just over here, I always keep this cup of water and it just gets topped up periodically. Sometimes I use it to wipe my desk, sometimes I use it to wipe my hands, and sometimes I use it for painting. So this is obviously clean water. And just when I was cleaning the brush off here, the bristles are really springy. Like, this is quite a firm brush, but it has quite a long set of bristles. So it is going to be interesting to see how we get on here. So first of all, I just want to do the watercolour on its own. And I'm going to use a bigger brush for that because I want to see how this behaves. Because the Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolour is a known quantity to me, so I just want to see how it behaves on the paper. And I am choosing this Jackson's Raven brush because it's got a massive belly on it. It holds a lot of water. So we are going to really test this out. So cadmium red pale hue. Permanent rose. Well, the paper likes the paint, I can tell you that for free. The next colour we got was the Purple Lake, wasn't it? The Purple Lake, I really like this colour. I'm kind of an accidental mauve fan, which is like the colour next door. But I like this because it's got a sort of pinkier tinge to it. Like, it's just a bit more exciting than the mauve. So yeah. An accidental mauve fan. I didn't know I liked the colour mauve until I started arting. Give that a little bit of room to manoeuvre itself about a bit. Okay, after mauve we get into the blues because we have ultramarine, which, that's a kind of staple. Yeah, go look at that travelling. Whee! It's a way to have a good time. They also gave us the cobalt blue and the phthalo blue, which is a personal favourite of mine. Just for funsies. Could tease that down a little bit. There you go. Look at that bad boy. And then what did we have? Oh, sap green. There is your sap green. And last but certainly not least, indigo. Indigo shares almost the only privilege of one other paint pan in my palette. And that other one is the sap green. And it is that you can nearly see a hole in the bottom of the pan now, like there's nearly a hole in the middle. The Chinese white's like that, but that was an accident that caused that. I've never used the Chinese white paint in my life. And the reason there's a hole in the bottom of that pan is because it was an accident. Okay, so there's the colour palette, which is actually really nice. I like it a lot. And I've tried to give you a sort of more concentrated area of colour with each pan, but also a lighter area so that you can see what happens when it's diluted with water. I think I didn't do a very good job with the ultramarine, but apart from that we're okay. As I keep saying, not a consummate professional with this, I just like to fart about with it, and that's why I've got the tagline, we like to play with art stuff. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Now, the paper is extremely happy. I'm not going to lift up this sheet because this is still really wet and runny. The paper isn't even blinking an eye at what's going on here. What I do want to show you now is what happens when we start to mix some of these colours with gouache. So I'm going to splodge a bit of gouache out here for us to use. Little of this goes a long way, and that is especially going to be true of the situation with the watercolour. Holy Moses, did you guys see? I wonder if the camera picked that up. We have a gas gun or a gas cannon in one of the fields that has rapeseed growing in it, because the pigeons are they're excited about it, and that was it going boom in the background. It wasn't a shot being fired. I don't know if the camera mic would have picked that up or not. Okay, so this is just a wee craft brush, and this is just so I can add the gouache into the watercolour, and I'm going to keep this raven brush for picking up the watercolour. So I think the indigo is probably a good place to start, because that's where you'll see the most drastic change in the paint. So if I just splodge a little bit of the watercolour down, so that's quite concentrated, there's not a lot of water mixed in with that. But now if I grab a tiny little bit of this gouache, so that's straight out the tube, I have not added any water to that, I'm just lifting a tiny little corner of that there, and I'm going to stick that in there. That is a lot of gouache based on the ratio of watercolour that's there, but if I just give that a wee quick mix, you can see there, look at that lovely delicate little shade, and then if I pop that underneath, you can see there that you've got a completely different shade. But not only that, I can then add water to this on the paper. See if I clean this big brush real quick. I can add water to this while it's sitting on the paper, and I can thin that out to make it look a bit more like the watercolour as well. Like, so good, so good, honestly. Okay, so that's a little bit more paint this time, and a little bit more water. Again, not very much gouache. You can be a little bit more scientific about this if you want, but it's more fun this way if you ask me. Yeah, so I'm just making sure that's mixed in real good. So you will have to do a little bit of mixing, but look at that colour. So nice. But if you think to yourself, that looks a bit too pastel for my liking. I don't know why I said pastel like that there. If you're Scottish, it's pastel. You don't say pastel, it's pastel. I find it quite interesting because I have many friends now that don't have English as a first language, and because they pick things up from watching American TV shows, they say words like pastel. Interesting. Okay, but if we decide this is a bit too wishy-washy, we can of course clean our brush off, but we can go back into our watercolour, pick some more up. You just have to be very careful about cross-contamination here, you know, if you want to keep your colours pure. But I can go and grab a little bit more watercolour and make this a bit richer. So you can see that's changed the shade a wee bit. I dare say I could go again without too much hassle. There we go. So it doesn't have to be like really light, delicate, you know, But if you're wanting something a bit more sinister, maybe you're not into all these lovely bright colours, see if we grab a bit of that indigo, just a tiny bit, and plonk that in there and mix it in. You can start to darken it down, obviously, and give yourself a bit of a shade. Oh no, not the whole pan though. There you are. So if I plonk a little bit of that in there, there we go. So we've got a much darker colour now, but it's still got some of that opacity because there is gouache in there. I mean, it's not going to be fully opaque because you've mixed a lot of water in with that, but you have these sort of semi-opaque properties. Oh, my indigo's escaped. Get back in there. So there's a lot you can do with this, and if you want, you know, you could spend hours just playing about with this kind of stuff. I personally would love to see one of these sort of purpley colours, either the purple lake or the rose. What colour is that? Permanent rose. I don't know why I can't remember that name. Let's do it with the purple lake, considering it's a colour that I like to use. Just for funsies, obviously. I'm trying to pick up as much of the paint as I can. It's quite a strong colour and I would like to keep it that way, but just have a slightly augmented version of it. Like, or I could sit and fart about here for hours. Who needs to paint anything? Right, okay, so we've done that. I do find that I have to change out my water a lot more frequently when I'm using gouache, because it does leave a pigmented residue behind, and then you get to a point, depending on what colours you're using, you get to a point where it looks like a unicorn's pooped in your water. So, you know. Okay, so I'm going to do this in tiny increments, like tiny increments. That was the smallest amount. That's such a pretty colour. Oh my word. Right, okay, that's it. We're done. We can go home now. Look at this. Okay, I was trying to keep it as close to the original paint colour as possible, just to give it opacity. But now if I add a little bit more white, we can get something a lot more delicate. Oh, look. These three colours go really well together as well in their gouache form. And again, if we're feeling, you know, if we feel like that's what we want to do, we can lift it. Because they were talking about lifting properties in this on this paper, so let's go for it. Wow. I would say that is excellent. Because that paint's been sitting there a little while. That's nearly dry. I'm just cleaning off my brush here. I always find as well though a very absorbent paintbrush, so a paintbrush with a big belly like this one, they're perfect for lifting. You do get smaller ones. There's another brush that I use quite a lot, and it was one that Julia Kay put me onto. It's also a Jackson's brush. Yeah, the quill, the Jackson's quill. This is the smallest size they do in it, but it's obviously a little bit more delicate than this big bad boy here. So yeah, I would recommend those as well, and they're not ridiculously expensive brushes either. Most of you guys will know I'm not really one for expensive brushes. I do have two black velvet brushes in there, and you know, I hardly ever use them. But again, I'm not a big watercolorer. I like Julia's paints, but that's because I like to play about with them and use them on top of things, and you know. Yeah, that's okay. I've more or less taken all of the paint off with that, so that's good. We're good for lifting properties. And now that everything's kind of dried off a bit, let me just put this to the side. I want to show you the paper from the perspective of the other side, and this is because it's 100% cotton. The paper's hardly batted an eyelid at the water that I've put on it. Granted, I haven't put a lot of water on it, but you can barely see the indents where I have put water on the other side. So we're going to be a little bit more aggressive now just before we finish up here, because I want to see what we can actually achieve with this. So I know my water's kind of dirty, but I am going to use this massive bellied brush to my advantage. And I'm going to grab that cadmium pale and get some of that in there. Oh yeah. And then grab that permanent rose. Okay, I'm going to leave this to dry for a minute or three, and I'm going to see what the paper looks like afterwards, because there's so much water on there that I can like slide it about. So that's probably a good indication. While that is drying, we're going to test out the paintbrush that came in the box. So I'm going to start, just because I've got this stuff here, I'm going to start with these mixtures. So these are fairly pliable because they've had a lot of water in them. They're not quite drippy. But I want to see how well it copes. So we've got a lovely delicate line because we've got this very fine point on the brush there. You can barely see my second line. Oh. How are we for coverage? Not bad at all actually. Obviously you're not going to be holding any sort of mega amounts of water with that brush because it's small. It's meant more as a sort of linery type brush. That's the other thing that I meant to say earlier. Upcrate do not mind if you use additional tools. For example, if you wanted to draw an outline with a pencil and there isn't a pencil in the box, they're not gonna like penalise you for that. The other thing as well as paintbrushes, if you were to use a larger paintbrush in conjunction with this to do your Upcrate, they're normally really cool with that. I think it would be different if you were using like 6 or 7 different brushes, and one was like a Kolinsky sable, and one was like hog's hair, and one was synthetic. Like, they might take a bit more of an issue with that, but don't feel like you have to stick rigidly to what's in the box. I tend to, because I'm just like that. I'm like, them's the rules. Let's pop down a little bit of this now as well, just for funsies. That's quite a watery mixture as well. It is quite springy, this paintbrush. I have the feeling though that while this is great just now new, I think if you were to use this repeatedly, it would get tired very quickly. Now though, what I want to do is I want to try it with the gouache. So I have a damp brush, it is not a dry brush, and I'm picking up neat gouache, like so. Let's take something that's dry up here, and I want to see how... Okay. Not bad, not bad. If we mix in a little bit of water with the gouache, which also I forgot to mention earlier, obviously you can totally do. You know, see if you want to give something a milky or foggy appearance, you can actually do it on the paper. You don't have to do it in the palette. So if I take a wet brush now, and I can do this over the top, you see, like this. So instead of having to mix an entire, you know, palette well of what you want to do. If you want to get something similar, you can do it on the paper. Now what that allows you to do as well is you can dip obviously back into your paint as well, and it means you can add in a little bit more paint if you feel like it's gone too far. Just beware of the lifting properties of this paper, because if you do go in and try and work it too hard, it's just going to lift the paint because you're going in with a damp brush. Obviously the drier it is, the better chance you've got of working with it like that, but this is the kind of thing I was talking about. You know, if you wanted to add in a wee bit of texture, something like that, that would be the way to do it. So yeah, okay, brush seems fairly good, no issues with it at all. Lovely, fine, delicate lines. So that's kind of making me think that if we're going to do something with the Upcrate Battle, something with a fair bit of detail in it would probably be nice, because that's really the purpose that this brush was intended for. You know, you're not covering big areas with that, but I really like this paper. You know, like how many different types of cold pressed papers have we tried? And I'm usually sort of quite nonchalant about them. But yeah, no, I quite like this. Okay, this is absolutely bone dry now, so I'm going to attack it with some more watercolour, and more to the point, some more water, because that's fun. So I'm going back to this permanent rose colour again. Oh, absolutely slap it on there. Whoa, don't be shy. More water. And then I'm like, do you know what? Maybe I just want some more water. Or maybe I just want some more water. Yeah, I'm being ridiculous now, but I'm just proving a point that I'm slogging away like I'm really battering this paper, and it's just like, yeah, do you know what, whatever. Obviously there is a little bit of buckling, but it is just a little bit of buckling. It is minimal. Okay, this is dry enough to show you now. I just wanted to show you the buckling situation. So if I show you next to the pad, which is obviously straight as a die, that gives you something to compare it to. So if I do this, you can see that there is a wave in it, especially here. So the paper kind of goes straight along, and then it just kind of goes blah, blah. That is nowhere near the massive part of where I've absolutely like battered it with water. I've got a slightly turned up corner, like I can get my finger under it to there before it touches the paper. But other than that, like that's what I really like about cotton paper. Like that's why I like it. That's why it is what it is. That's why it's you know, like a high quality item. Individually, I am very pleased with the supplies that we've got in the box. I like the paper, I like the paintbrush, although I'm not convinced it would have any longevity in it, but that's only something you can find out over time. If anyone has this particular paintbrush and has had it over time, I'd be really interested to hear any reporting back that you have to do with that. This gouache, just purely coincidence that that's what I've been using for the last few days. So I love this. It's great. A little bit goes a really long way. That tube's going to last a normal person like forever. It's going to last me about 3 weeks. And also some nice quality paints that aren't going to absolutely bust the bank if you decide you'd like more of them. They are very reasonably priced. I say I use these. These are like my base go-to paints when I'm not using Julia's spangly, you know, sparkly, fancy, spandangled paints. And the reason that I use these are they're reasonably priced and they're very, very accessible in the UK. Like you can get them pretty much everywhere at a good price as well without paying through the nose for them. Again, just being out of the EU. Brands like Schminke, Faber-Castell, so German brands, you know, we tend to pay through the nose for things like that. So yeah, this is actually really nice. It's ironic that this is in a German subscription box. But yes, so very happy with the supplies, and more to the point, they work really well together, and sometimes that just doesn't happen with these boxes. I'm not very motivated just now to create and to film videos. I'll be honest with you, I am just kind of like sorting through my own stuff. That is our Upcrate for January 2024. Hopefully the first of many good boxes this year, and it's that time for you to go down into the comments and tell me what you think of this month's box, whether you're excited for it, and if you have ideas for your prompt. I would love to hear all of your opinions, because we do get some very varied opinions, and I always think that's kind of half the fun about unboxing these. So I want to thank you very much for your attention for today, and I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Maybe you've learned something, and I will see you back in the cave really soon for another video. Just before we go, you've still got time to enter the Colouring Heaven giveaways. We have 2 giveaways. We have one for UK residents, which is the massive bundle of 13 Colouring Heaven magazines. If you'd like to enter for that, you have to live in the UK, be over 18, and you can check that out over on the Colour Cave Instagram or Facebook, whichever one you use. If you're out with the UK, you can enter the YouTube giveaway, which was the last video before this. Again, I'll put that in the end card so that you can go back to it and you can enter underneath that video. Have a great day, everyone. Bye bye for now.